It is 4:30 p.m. on September 17th of 2024, and we will start with introductions. My name is Melanie Ergott, School Board Member.
June Kruger, School Board Member.
Kelly Lang, School Board Member.
Quinn Trueblood, Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
Erin Faust, Program Administrator.
Tina Van Roo, District Assessment Coordinator.
Heather Isaacson, Program Administrator.
Kelly Downs, Curriculum Coordinator.
All right, so the first item on our discussion list for tonight is the book club parent notification and permission for the 2024-2025 school year. And this will be presented by Dr. Quinn Trueblood.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to, we've done so much work as a community to really serve parents. And this is one example where if we're looking at notifying parents and giving them notice for their permission options and their preferences and really being targeted and communicative with our teachers, this is, I think, a fine example of getting to a place where we want to be. So I know that we had walked the committee through another book list, but this is really the first book list that any parent would ever get in the 5th grade. So I think it's a very fine example of the introduction of book club to parents and guardians. So what we did was we took the big ideas and we drafted the permission slip, and then we, as school started, we circulated it around with our literacy specialists and our teachers. And they gave us feedback. And so what you have is really a compilation of the very best of our staff. And what's really noticeable here is that the option language for parents is not only bolded, but it's really written in parent-friendly language. It's super clear. My student may read any book. That's option 1. Option 2 is I will grant permission for each book club throughout the entire school year, unit by unit. That right there is so significant. And what we want parents to do is tell us what they want. And sometimes they don't do that. And so we will still do what we've done before, which is contact parents if we don't receive permission within 5 days. Because what we've learned last year through not getting permission is that some students really have very limited options. And the other thing is, more significantly, a literacy specialist brought this to our attention, is that not only is it limited, but sometimes it's not reading level appropriate. And that is the whole point of selection of books, that it is a selection that students have that is appropriate to their reading level, that engages them, and skill develops them. So there is a real italicized section that is as explicit and as concrete as possible to tell parents that that's actually what is going to happen if they don't respond. But what we want to do is make sure we reach out and let them know that we want them to respond, because that kind of sets the tone for how they're going to be communicated with for the rest of the year. And so how we do this is also a little unusual, a little different this year. Last year we had really paper format, and that was, of course, just to make sure that we had a viable process that was 100% assurance. But we've learned that parents really are very digitally minded, and sometimes it is very difficult to shuffle paper around for students too. So the difference here is that all permission communication will be digital. And that's wonderful for us too on both ends, because it's efficient, it's effective, and we have a record of it with all parties who are involved. And so if we have to do any review or we have to verify something, it is really housed in one place through a Google form. So I think that is the efficiency that we're looking for, and we have a means to do that. You can also see here that a lot of parents are quick to do QR codes. We're actually going to give them access to that. And there's also, for the 5th grade and the 6th grade, a paper copy if they want to look at the paper copy and register with a QR code that links them to that form. So I think we're covering all the appropriate bases when we talk about really what do 5th grade parents really need to understand what is happening in the classroom for reading. So I think we have covered everything. I'm so proud of it. And our teachers really gave us a lot of input on how to make this better. So any comments or questions you have?
Just a comment. I mean, this is awesome. And I'm like with my mom hat on, thinking about how easy just clicking that's going to be, rather than like, did I fill out that paper? Because then you get the reminder email, did it go back? So this is great. And I think this is so concise and clear for everyone that this really sums up a lot of hard work. So I appreciate everyone working on this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just think I love the digital way of doing that. As a mom too, if I put my mom hat on, it's just super convenient. Like, oh, there that is. Let me just fill that out quick before I set it somewhere and forget about it. So I think that's great, and I like that that we are going to kind of reach out to families that maybe don't turn it in within that period of time. Because I know I'm one of those parents that forgets to fill things out all the time. So the reminders, I think, would be helpful. So.
I really like the format. I did notice, so I actually I did scan this and tried it out. Is there any concern with students filling this out themselves with the QR code and then signing their mom's name to it and allowing themselves to read all the books?
Well, I want to remind you that this will be sent in Skyward Messenger, so parents will get it, the actual, this text. So if students are doing that and the parents come in to do that and it's already done, I think that will be buzzers up, but that will be between the family members.
And then one other thing I noticed, I kind of circled it so I could remember to mention it. I noticed when permission slips are not, it indicates when they're not completed, when the permission slip are not completed, that you'll be limited to books that have an NA or limited. And I didn't know if that had changed somewhere along the line. I seem to remember it had to be NA for that student as a default.
Yes, thank you for noting that. That actually is a descriptor for all grade levels except fifth grade, because we changed the grade bands from kindergarten through fifth grade, which is NA. And then the limited, just to recall, it was really for the 6-8 band, the middle level band, and then some was for the 9-12 band. So we will make that correction just for the fifth grade itself. But yes, this would have been the template for all, but thank you for marking that up for us. And our English teachers at the high school were actually quite excited about this. They said, can we strike when the iron is hot, even if we don't have a quarter-one book list? So we're gonna, they are going to distribute just the permission option because many students already at the high school know much and their parents know about the book clubs, but we just wanna capture permission right away simply because that's when parents are aware and active. And so we want to make sure we get a high percentage of response in that. And that was their idea. So we'll be doing that for 3 English classes at the high school. Okay. I do want to, if there are no other comments about the actual permission template letter here, is there any other? I do want to draw your attention because it is a nuance. And of course, we did a thorough review. And you will notice that, that one of the 2 books actually have a notation on page 3, the book rules. It was very hard because there's one word in that book. So we weren't sure if it was an NA or not. So I want you to know that that was previously stated as the R word, but it was used in the upstander position. And so it was permissible in the context of the story. This is an autistic brother. And so it is understandable and used in context to be upstanding rather than downstanding. So we're still debating. I guess we'd like for you to comment on that, to say it is not none, but it is one. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And the other similar is Amina's voice, and that is on page 4, and it is one word, one time, and it is the word hell. So that's where the fine line hits all the time, none, not applicable, or one. And so on the merit of these books, in consideration of the value of these books, we thought it'd be important to disclose it, but not to negate it and say that it's not applicable. Can I get some feedback from that?
I think it's good how it's listed. I mean, you don't want to put NA and then have someone come back to you and say that they found this word. But I do appreciate that it's, if I'm just scanning over this one word, if I really have a problem, I can go in and figure out what that is. And if it's something offensive to me, then that would be crossed off of my list. I like the way that it's listed here, though.
I have similar comments or similar feedback that I like that it's listed there because we're being very transparent. And if, a parent wants to shy away from that particular book for whatever reason, they're aware of it and can make that choice.
I'll comment the same too. I like that it's on there, and if a parent wants to know what that word is, they can always reach out to the teacher, right, and get that information. Because sometimes it's a fine line, like, is it a bad word? Is it not a bad word? Like, yeah, so I feel like those are kind of a gray area word, maybe.
And we always have been messaging this, but it is at the discretion of the reader, who would be the parent at this point, to decide if it was not an appropriate word. So I think that is the whole point.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I can move to the next agenda item, which is on May 20th, the board, with all the hard work of the policy committee and the curriculum committee here, mostly the curriculum committee, graphic violence was really updated by definition and also in consideration, with different considerations for context and also grade banding and thresholds. So what we did was, we have a whole school here now in order, and so we went through previous selections and said, what if we ran these through again using the updated definitions and the new parameters? And so I wanted to bring to your attention that Spirit Bear was an exemplar in the 7th grade, because if we dial back to the previous definitions and parameters, this was a very, very difficult book to consider because we had many, many debates about it. And so the upshot is that the new parameters or the updates actually made it very easy for us, or easier for us, to run this book through the review process. But I do want to tell you the reason why this is valuable is because the whole book is set up in a certain way, and to consider the plot and the characters' development in this book was actually highlighted explicitly. So I wanted to take some of your time to listen to really the example that we use to test the updates. And so I'm going to ask Ms. Erin Faust to set the book up for us and read some passage that really made us think, okay, if we take this passage, apply the parameters, what would we conclude from it? So I will ask Ms. Faust to do the reading.
All right, so the premise of this book is that there is a middle school aged youth who has been in trouble in some significant situations, and his family has always been able to sort of help him get out of the punishments for those situations. And the latest infraction was a fight with another student, and his parents have decided they are not going to help him out of this situation at this time. So he is facing either time in a juvenile detention center, or his option is to go to an Alaskan island where he can participate in like a behavior modification program. So in that situation, the premise is that he will learn how to be independent. He will learn how to work through his anger in that situation. And it is under the guidance of the local Native Americans that he is being monitored on this island. So while he is there, one of the things that happens is he attacks a bear, and the bear fights back. So the language in this situation is that bear attack that's happening with the student. So the story says, he ignored the thistles as the bear sank its teeth into his thigh, lifting him like a rag doll. Cole's stomach turned, and he swung the knife wildly. Each time he stabbed the bear, its powerful jaws clamped harder. Cole felt his pelvis crack. His body went weak, and the knife slipped from his hand. The bear dropped him to the ground and pawed at his chest as if raking leaves. Sharp claws ripped flesh with each swipe. Cole raised his right arm to ward off the attack, and teeth clamped onto his forearm. Then everything seemed to happen in slow motion. He felt his body flop back and forth, the bear swinging him by the arm. Cole pounded the bear's face with his fist, but nothing stopped the savage attack. In desperation, he grabbed the bear's neck to free his arm and the crushing jaws. A handful of white hair pulled loose. Cole heard the loud crack of bones breaking in his forearm. Then the bear dropped him with a grunt. Cole cowered on the ground, pain piercing his shoulder. As if finishing its attack, the spirit bear placed its huge paw on Cole's chest and gave a single hard shove. Air exploded from Cole's lungs. Ribs snapped. So this is the one chapter, goes on to detail a little bit more of this attack, but this is the most detailed explanation. There are parts later on where he sees a bird who is eating a little bit of the flesh that the bear pulled out of him. It's his vision of it, like, oh, the bird is doing this. But this is really the event that changes this boy's life. So talking about the graphic violence potentially being central to the story and having that be the factor that allows the book to pass through, this is the central part of the story.
Thank you, Erin. So by definition, it does fit. But if we go into consideration for, as Ms. Faust stated, it is without this particular episode or event described in that detail of the attack, his development would not have occurred. It just is central to it. So we take that out and we say, what would happen? Well, it'd be a very different story. It may not have been, it would be misaligned, let's just say. So that was a perfect test for us to say, how do we apply this? And so in application analysis, we said it works. I mean, it's not perfect, but it works better. So this is what we were dealing with last year, where it was very difficult. And honestly, Spirit Bear almost didn't make it last year, but we had to ask for some permission for it to include it. But using this updated definition, we have more confidence that we can vet it properly and say, yes, it meets the criteria for selection. Kind of a perfect example.
Yep, it works.
Yes. And I just wanted, there were a few findings, like I said, the definition is absolutely more clear and operable. And that the consideration for the limited use, as we had stated before, is quite valuable. And third, the threshold of limited, because we state that as limited, it's still subjective, but it is limited within the context of the story. It is not the whole story. It is a moment in the story that is defining. And there's residuals about this attack, but it isn't at that same intensity. So we can start to kind of understand those nuances better. And lastly, I'm just really happy to use something that actually works and our teachers can use, and I think this is of great assistance to them too.
So would that book then, on the permission slip, say limited underneath that category?
It would say limited, and it says, I think it says a bear attack.
Okay.
The main character attacks a bear, something like that. I think that's the descriptor. Don't quote me, but I think that's what we said, right?
So is that, was that a middle school?
Seventh grade.
7th grade. Okay, thank you.
7th grade, yes. And that is all I have for the test. I'm happy that it works, at least at this level. And I want you to know that we will continue to have some challenges in the higher grades, but the same thought process and application and the same discipline of how to use that definition will be applied.
All right, that sounds good. Is there any other questions or comments? No? All right, it appears we've reached the end of our agenda. So I will go ahead and make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, June. All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, sounds good.